a few laps ago that the car is just so free on exit. It's a handful. Letarte responded by saying, I know it's not fun to drive, but you are definitely faster this run on the stopwatch, as he undertakes the low line there on the 42 of Montoya.
Gordon finally able to complete the pass. Kyle Busch continues to hang around. He was not satisfied with his car a little bit earlier, but right now he's second behind Casey Kane. Guess who's back? It's TNT Race Buddy. Log on to NASCAR.com and you can watch up to 4 live camera angles at once with the new TNT Race Buddy Mosaic View. TNT Race Buddy only on NASCAR.com. So to give you an idea of what's happened today here at New Hampshire, only one caution. It came out just past lap 30 for debris. 149 of the 301 laps now complete. We're closing on halfway. Teams have pitted twice, once under the aforementioned caution, a second time under green. 3 different leaders today, well, two different dominant leaders. Montoya started on the pole, led the first 36 laps. Kane has been the best of them all in regard to laps led. And another driver who's serving notice, Dale Earnhardt Jr. going after Jimmy Johnson for 8th. Phil?
Dale Jr. has had a great race. Started back in the 31st position. Just a few moments ago, he told his crew chief, Lance McGrew, that the car needed to rotate a touch more in the center of the corner. Otherwise, Jr., no problems.
It's after he started 31st today, Phil. An impressive run for Dale Earnhardt Jr. at a track that historically has not been good for him, and he needs a good run. You see, he's outside the top 12 in points, but now only 9 behind. It was 50 plus out when the day started, Wally.
Hey, as they run right now, I mean, it's very close with those guys 13th and back. I mean, it's only 50 points is nothing.
50 points is nothing. And you know, but Larry, when Larry talks about it, Larry's got a great observation on it, I think. 50 points is nothing when I'm racing Wally Dallenbach. But if I've got to race Wally and then, you know, and then Adam and race everybody else that's up here in the booth, everybody's got to have trouble for you to catch up that 50. You know what I mean?
I forget his name a lot too.
Yeah, so I forgot. I don't know. I want to say
call me
somebody
whatever
else.
you want. Right now we're going to call Kyle Busch. He gets around Casey Kane for the race lead. And just behind them, Matt Kenseth, the lap car. I'm not sure this one's over yet. Maybe it is. More on the leader. Ralph?
Well, he really feels like they got this car headed in the right direction. They got rid of a lot of that bounce he was having a problem with. They got the car turning pretty good as well. The one thing he's working on now is the brakes. He's trying to stay off the brake pedal as much as he can, let that car roll through the turn. They talked about trying to remove some tape. Wally, Kyle, he feels like the brakes are getting a little bit soft. And as you know, you're on the brakes pretty hard here in Loudon.
Yeah, and you know, and your point about keeping off the brakes, Ralph, is, you know, if your car is handling well, which obviously it's handling pretty good if you're leading, you don't use as much brake, and that's the key here. Well, it looks like the 9 got into the 98 Paul Menard just a little bit there, but yeah, it's really, really important to have your car roll through the center, and the less you're on the brake, the better, especially this time of the race, because those rotors are hot, the caliper's hot, everything is really, really hot. So the better you can stay off them, it's going to help everything. Yeah. And your tire temperatures too.
Tire temperature, it affects everything. And look, they run this so long under green, everything's hot. But if his pedal is going soft right now, we're 155 laps into a 301 lap race. It's going to be a long second half.
155 laps complete in the Lenox Industrial Tools 301. NASCAR Sprint Cup Series racing in Loudon, New Hampshire this afternoon, presented by Captain Morgan. Tony Stewart on pit road, Marty.
Well, until he gets a caution, this is the game Tony Stewart's going to have to play all day long, and that was a problem on the front that time for Tony Stewart. They are out of sequence with everybody else, as we mentioned, pitting 20 laps earlier. Too tight for Tony. That run, a wedge adjustment, trying to loosen it up. Now they hope for no caution until everybody else pits.
Tony Stewart out of cycle, just past halfway, so we take a look at today's Verizon race summary. 8 lead changes among 8 different drivers this afternoon. Average speed of today's race, just over 119 miles per hour. Only one caution. It came out just past lap 30 for 4 laps. It was debris in turn 3. 7 cars have retired from today's race.
You know, just like you said, Tony's on a different cycle. They can't afford mistakes. When you're on a different cycle, that one little bit, that one little tidbit of an extra second here or an extra half second there, you've got to be on your game. Once you make that initial mistake, you can't continue, because obviously they didn't get enough fuel in the tank at some point in time, which put them in a different place. Now they have a slow pit stop, which puts them in a totally different place. Little by little, mistakes add up and you take yourself out.
And even if he gets to caution right now, he's not going to be the lucky dog.
No, and he wasn't the first cycle. The first cycle, he had dropped back 5th or 6th, 1 lap down. So they took themselves way out. Now you've got to, you know, if he was unlucky enough to get a caution, if a caution came out right now, he's mired back in the pack trying to fight for the lucky dog.
Yeah. Tony Stewart now 7th in line in regard to those drivers, 1 lap down to the leader. Jimmy Johnson, if you're just joining us, was about to take the race lead earlier. Problems for Regan Smith.
Oh, missed the commitment cone right there too as he come in. He tried to cut at it. Looked like he was going to run over it. He just went ahead and ran around it.
Right front is flat.
The penalty probably less than what the price would have been had he continued around and had that tire shred on him. We stay under green as Regan Smith was able to get to pit road. And if Regan Smith had not gotten down, it could have caused a lot of problems for other drivers. Check this out.
And this is where a spotter is so important. I wish we had the sound here, because the spotter's probably telling him inside, inside, inside. But it took him so long to get around, he couldn't get down to get there.
It's not his spotter I'd want to hear. It's the other drivers around him that I'd want to listen to.
The other spotters at that time, are holding their breath, praying that he does not turn left and start down across pit road.
Kyle Busch, the race leader, trying to sweep the weekend here at New Hampshire after a dominating win in nationwide competition yesterday. Casey Kane closing in. Green flag stops when we return. Tonight, it's a new season and a new reason to get more leverage. Don't miss an all-new Leverage 2-hour event tonight, 9/8 Central, only on TNT. The green flag pit stops are underway. Martin Truex Jr. just made his stop at lap 171. Not too far behind, Marcos Ambrose, Jamie McMurray getting service, Paul Menard hitting pit road now. Let's go back to that cycle of green flag stops about 70 laps ago, as you see Ambrose on pit road. Remember how tight the battle for the lead was between Kane and Jimmy Johnson, and how they separated on pit road? A similar situation here. Busch leading Kane, and we'll see which is better in regard to getting on and off the pit lane under green after they make their stops.
And after all that happened, Johnson is still 7 seconds behind Casey Kane.
Picked up no ground. Johnson in 8th right now.
And that's impressive for Casey and those guys. That showed Casey the adjustments they made and where they were at. The 9 car got better to match whatever the 48 was doing on the racetrack.
And the other driver that we talked about that was a big gainer on that last exchange of stops, the man leading the race, Kyle Busch, was 7th when those green flag stops began just past lap 100. He was running 2nd after they were completed. His teammate Denny Hamlin on pit road for service now, Matt.
Somewhat of a struggle today for Denny Hamlin in the 11, a racetrack where he's never finished worse than 15th here. He said the car was wrecking loose, then tight. Significant adjustment for Hamlin, Marty.
Matt Clint Boyer barely got into his pit stall. You can see this is a legal stop, though. He squealed into his pit stall, and the car turned sideways. It'll be a 4-tire change. Car way too tight for Boyer, and a wedge adjustment. Matt.
Carl Edwards had to check up for a split second to let the 11 of Hamlin exit his pit box. Meanwhile, the 20, after the chassis adjustment to tighten up the 99's completed, the 20 of Joey slid into his box at a bad angle. Air pressure change for Joey, Marty.
Matt, Jimmy Johnson said he never got into rhythm on that run. The car way too tight, especially at the end of that run. It was a wedge adjustment, trying to loosen up this 48 car and gain some of that time back. Phil?
Marty Dale Earnhardt Jr. in the pits. He's just now leaving 4 tires. Just a bit of an air pressure adjustment. Needed to turn a little bit better in the center of the corner.
And meanwhile, our pole sitter, Juan Pablo Montoya, making his way down to his pit stall. He tried different lines. He tried backing up to his corner, both tight and loose. Coles to a stop. He said, Brian Petty, we're going to give you a track bar adjustment going down this time to try to